James Franklin has overstayed his welcome at Penn State. Penn State this upcoming year has two running backs who were supposed to be NFL players. Neither of them were able to go to the league. Both of them had to return for another year of college due to James Franklin. That's your fault. If you can't develop your players and you can't develop talent that is clear NFL talent, that is a problem with the system and the coaching. If you look at Penn State's receivers, Penn State has great receivers out there. Julian Fleming was an Ohio State Buckeye. Julian Fleming was supposed to be one of the best receivers in the entire country. Penn State can't get him the ball because Penn State doesn't throw the football. So if you don't throw the football and you have two NFL running backs and neither of them are able to even declare for the NFL draft, that is a problem with the coaching and the system. Penn State football has maintained mediocrity for too many years. They have a great program, they have a strong fan base, and they have supporters and NIL dollars who are willing to pour into the program. The only thing wrong with Penn State football is the man in charge of everything. It is impossible to win a national championship or to have true success in college football if your head coach is not the caliber of head coach that you need to do what your goals are set to do. James Franklin is not fit to be the head coach of the Penn State Nittany Lions, and he's proven that over the years, over and over and over. How many years does Dan Lanning have left until he leaves Oregon for a tier one college football program? This is what I mean when I say tier one. Oregon's football team is decent. They're good from year to year. They just got moved into the Big Ten, so that's going to change things for them. Oregon's not going to be able to compete in the Big Ten. So how many years are recruits and Dan Lanning going to keep showing up and losing to better schools? If Nike ever moved away from Oregon, only thing Oregon has going for them is that they're a Nike school and that Nike is located there. If Nike was not affiliated with Oregon, no recruit would ever go to school there. There would be no presence for their football team, and you likely never would have heard of the Oregon Ducks at all. At all. I'm saying as a university, you never would have heard of the Oregon Ducks at all. You can go to any other football program, Alabama, Ohio State, Texas, Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, all way better football programs historically and currently than the Oregon Ducks. Dan Lanning is a top 3 or 4 head football coach in the entire country. So, how many years is Dan Lanning going to continue to settle for mediocrity with a program that wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Nike? If there was no Nike, you never would have heard of Oregon University, and that's what makes them a tier two program. If they were a tier one college football program, you would have heard of them regardless because of the culture and the people and the players. Oregon is a new fad, and it's not going to be long until that runs out. What Oregon offers recruits isn't unique anymore. Kids can get money and swag from any university now. If you give a kid $1 million, he doesn't need you to give him a bunch of free Nike socks and Nike t shirts. Kids can go to UNLV now, get cash money, and do way better for themselves than they would be able to do at a school like Oregon. With that being said, Oregon has about 2 years left before everybody realizes that Nike working alongside them does nothing. Nike offers nothing to college kids from a recruiting aspect outside of cool uniforms. With that being said, kids are going to stop going to Oregon because there's no reason to go. We don't need Nike gear. We don't need Nike swag. We don't need Nike apparel. Just give me Adidas and give me $5 million, and I'm not going to say anything. That's the perspective that you're going to see from college kids and high school kids when they start recruiting to other universities not named Oregon. And I'm not going to say anything. That's the perspective that you're going to see from college kids and high school kids when they start recruiting to other universities not named Oregon. The University of Tennessee thought that they were making a good decision by getting rid of Nico. They should have just paid that man their money. The University of Tennessee now has no quarterback, nobody in contention, no idea from camp who's even competing for the starting job. All you had to do was pony up a few $1 million, pay Nico his money, and then you would have had him for not only this year, but another year as well. So while in the moment it sounds like, oh, we're setting the standard for our program, we're letting kids know what they can and cannot do, we're taking the control back for NIL, it really would have been smart for Tennessee to just pay Nico the money that he asked for. The NCAA is going to come down on NIL They're going to collapse the rules. They are going to be the ones to put guidelines and barriers around what NIL actually is. To be a college university trying to limit NIL and or put your foot down as to what you're going to pay someone is idiotic. You're telling them to walk out the door same day, just the way that Nico did. You're telling them to walk out the door and go to another university that will pay them. And those schools will do it. So the only person getting hurt from putting your foot down and setting an example is the university who lost out on a great football player. Vince Marrow going to Louisville crippled the University of Kentucky's football program. The only reason that kids came to the University of Kentucky for football is because Vince Marrow. Vince Marrow is more so the face of Kentucky's football program than Mark Stoops, than the starting quarterback, the starting receiver, anybody. There's no individual Kentucky football player who sticks out and is known more so than Vince Marrow is known around Kentucky. With that being said, that's detrimental to Kentucky because if Vince Marrow could get kids to commit to Lexington, Kentucky, he's going to be able to get kids to commit to, then he will also be able to get kids to commit to Louisville, Kentucky, which is just an hour away. Vince Marrow is great at his job. I respect Vince in every single way. But he's going to be going from the biggest proponent of Kentucky football to literally the man who will not allow them to get any recruits in state or out of state. If you come to the state of Kentucky, you're going to go to Vince, and that's going to be at Louisville. He's also going to be the man who is responsible for dominating the Kentucky Louisville football rivalry. This is going to flip everything for Kentucky because Vince Marrow was the only piece of Kentucky football that actually mattered. Ace Bailey is refusing to meet with NBA teams unless they give him a promise. Where do these kids get the idea that any of this stuff is even acceptable? Ace Bailey played on Rutgers last year and they were a losing college basketball program. He was the star player and he had another top 5 recruit and top 5 NBA draft pick who played alongside him as well, Dylan Harper. So how can 2 top 5 NBA draft picks have zero success on the college level? And then on top of that, you have the unmitigated gall to tell NBA teams, I'm not even going to come and sit down and have a lunch with you unless you promise me an NBA contract and draft pick. That is insane. If I was Ace Bailey, I would be trying to meet with any NBA team that even texted my phone. I wouldn't expect to be a top 5 or 6 draft pick. Ace Bailey can get the exact same treatment that Shadur Sanders got because he wasn't that impressive on the basketball court, and he needs to make sure that his emotions and his interactions and the way that he's coming off with these NBA teams is well protected. Ace Bailey needs to do a better job of managing his image because anybody can get Shadur Sanders in 2025. Dylan Harper being a top 5 NBA draft pick still blows my mind. Not only was he inconsistent while he was on the basketball court, but he also showed that he was injury prone. So when I look at Dylan Harper, I say, okay, this is a point guard who's not going to be on the court, who's not going to be on the court a lot. It's a point guard who doesn't lead to winning for his team. And it's a point guard who played alongside another top 5 NBA draft pick and didn't make him any better throughout the entire season. Dylan Harper would be my most skeptical draft pick of the entire NBA draft because my question is, what does Dylan Harper do? What does Dylan Harper do that other guys can't do? Besides the fact that he's a 6'6 point guard, what is he special at? Can he shoot? Can he dribble? Can he pass? Can he play defense? I haven't heard any of this stuff about Dylan Harper. They just say that he's going high just because he was supposed to go high. I would watch for him to fall because there's no reason to pick him high and so many reasons to pick him low and let him slide.